Meditation is supposed to be fun. It's not something you do as a grim duty. The trouble with religion as we know it is that it is so mixed up with grim duties. We do it because it's good for you. It's a kind of self-punishment. Well, meditation, when correctly done, has nothing to do with all that. It's a kind of digging the present. It's a kind of grooving with the eternal now. And brings us into a state of peace where we can understand that the point of life, the place where it's at, is simply here and now.
This moment is the creation of the universe. It's starting now. If you look back and wonder whether there was a big bang a long time ago, all you'll see is vanishing traces. The big bang is happening now. This is when the world begins. You're doing it. Only you're not doing it by straining. A you deeper than the straining you is doing all this. The same you that is growing your hair and coloring your eyes and making your thumbprints and all that. You don't think about it. You don't strain muscles to do it. But that is what is creating the world. Here it comes. Now. So instead of thinking that the past is the reality which explains everything that happens now, let's look at now.
On the Fringe, Stand Radio style. Hope everybody out there's having a great day. We've got the Law of One series. It's something that's super important to me and something that I wish to understand better myself. That's why I'm learning it at this phase. I think I've been through this. This will be my fourth time really going through this material. First time recording all of it, which is offering an enhanced kind of level of experience for me. And I'm actually really enjoying this, and I hope you guys are enjoying it as well. We'll take some questions from people at the end. We've got two sessions we're going to cover. Session 11 kind of gets into a sister planet, which is interesting information. It's something that's always kind of floated around and makes me wonder. Adolf Hitler is brought up past other people, some kind of famous people you've probably heard of, and Nikola Tesla comes up in session 11. Session 12, we get into a whole bunch of crazy stuff. The UFOs and chariots, the guardians that watch out over this planet during the quarantine, which some say is kind of not happening anymore. A couple contact stories going on. We've got wanderers, which is a big deal, especially to me, and healing stuff. We've got a lot to go into that second session, so 12 is going to be powerful stuff. Like what we've been doing, I'm going to go ahead and play the session, and I'm going to kind of take notes while it's happening and kind of do a quick synopsis, the parts that jump out to me, try to help the best I can understanding some of this craziness. Densities is something they talk a lot about. There's a difference between densities and dimensions. I don't know if that part's been cleared up yet in the readings. I think it comes soon. But I feel like we trample on that a little bit in these couple episodes. So again, understand, dimensions are different spatial directions in the case of third, fourth dimension. It can also reference time. Some people like to think that's a dimension, which it is, but that's kind of an even separate dimension unto the other spatial dimensions, and there's many of those, supposedly. Densities have more to do with how I feel like it's your level of life, like like you're either kind of starting off in the basic levels of how to get along. You're not quite sure why you can't just go beat up your neighbor because you disagree with them, right? Versus somebody that's like a bit more civilized when it comes to these kinds of things, but maybe can't understand why Adolf Hitler shouldn't go and burn in eternity, right? So there's levels to understanding how life is and the fact that we're souls all embarking on our own journey. And really nothing happens outside of Source's permission. Nothing happens outside of self's permission in most cases. Life is a little more complex than I think a lot of us have been led to believe. And I think Law of One helps in one of many tools hopefully you have in your tool chest. I think this is definitely one of them. So session 11, we're going to get this going again. Remember, 1981 when this stuff came out. That was a while ago. And again, it's fun to see, like when it comes to like UFO technology or when they talk about UFO or this sister planet, it's just fun to see where we are now in what we understand in our awakening process and internet and everything versus even 1981 when you kind of relied on channeled information and who you know and people that you could get CDs from or books from, or it was a different world back then and you found information in different ways. And now it's more an issue of discerning because there's so much information. Again, I love it. It's a fun experience. I'm glad I was a part of it. The Wanderer part, I think a lot of you guys are going to feel connection with. I certainly do too. And I will say it is one of the things that they talk about how they sometimes miss where they're from. And that's one of the hard parts about being a wanderer. And it is the hard part. And there's other problems that come. They talk about it. But again, a lot of good stuff. We're going to kick it off. Here's session 11. It's on the Fringe. The Law of One, session 11, recorded January 28th, 1981. Ra, I am Ra. I greet you in the love and light of the infinite creator. I communicate now. Questioner, should we include the ritual that you have suggested that we use to call you in the book that will result from these sessions? Ra, I am Ra. This matter is of small importance, for our suggestion was made for the purpose of establishing contact through this instrument with this group. Questioner, is it of any assistance to the instrument to have name and name present during these sessions? Does the number in the group make any difference in these sessions? Ra, I am Ra. The most important of the entities are the questioner and the vibratory sound complex, Jim. The two entities additional aid the instrument's comfort by energizing the instrument with their abilities to share the physical energy complex, which is a portion of your love vibration. Questioner, you said yesterday that Maldek was destroyed due to warfare. If Maldek hadn't destroyed itself due to warfare, would it have become a planet that evolved with self-service, and would the entities have increased in density, gone on to say the fourth, fifth density in the negative sense, or the sense of self-service? Ra, I am Ra. The planetary social memory complex, Maldek, had in common with your own sphere the situation of a mixture of energy direction. Thus, it, though unknown, would most probably have been a mixed harvest. A few moving to fourth density, a few moving to fourth density in service to self, the great majority repeating third density. This is approximate due to the fact that parallel possibility-probability vortices cease when our actions occurred and new probability-possibility vortices are begun. Questioner, is there a planet behind our sun, opposite to us in orbit, that we do not know about? Ra, I am Ra. There is a sphere in the area opposite your sun of a very, very cold nature, but large enough to skew certain statistical figures. This sphere should not properly be called a planet, as it is locked in first density. Questioner, you said that entities from Maldek might go on to, some may go to the fourth density negative. Are there people who go out of our present third density to places in the universe and serve, which are fourth density service or negative type of planets? Ra, I am Ra. Your question is unclear. Please restate. Questioner, as our cycle ends and graduation occurs, is it possible for anyone to go from this third density to a fourth density planet that is a service to self type or negative type? Ra, I am Ra. We grasp now the specificity of your query. In this harvest, the probability-possibility vortex indicates a harvest, though small, of this type. That is correct. Questioner, can you tell us what happened to Adolf Hitler? Ra, I am Ra. The mind-body-spirit complex known as Adolf is at this time in a healing process in the middle astral planes of your spherical force field. This entity was greatly confused, and although aware of the circumstance of change in vibratory levels associated with the cessation of the chemical body complex, nevertheless needed a great deal of care. Questioner: is there anyone in our history that is commonly known who went to fourth density, self-service, or negative type planet, or who will go there? Ra: I am Ra. The number of entities thus harvested is small. However, a few have penetrated the 8th level, which is only available from the opening up of the 7th through the 6th. Penetrating into the 8th or intelligent infinity level allows a mind-body-spirit complex to be harvested, if it wishes, at any time-space during the cycle. Questioner: are any of these people known in the history of our planet by name? Ra: I am Ra. We will mention a few. The one known as Taras Bulba, the one known as Genghis Khan, the one known as Rasputin. Questioner: how did they accomplish this? What was necessary for them to accomplish this? Ra: all of the aforementioned entities were aware, through memory, of Atlantean understanding having to do with the use of various centers of the mind-body-spirit complex energy influx in attaining the gateways to intelligent infinity. Questioner: did this enable them to do what we refer to as magic? Do paranormal things while they were incarnate here? Ra: I am Ra. This is correct. The first two entities mentioned made little use of these abilities consciously. However, they were bent single-mindedly upon service to self, sparing no efforts in personal discipline to double, redouble, and so empower this gateway. The third was a conscious adept and also spared no effort in the pursuit of service to self. Questioner: where are these entities now? Ra: I am Ra. These entities are in the dimension known to you as fourth. Therefore, the space-time continua are not compatible. An approximation of the space-time locus of each would net no actual understanding. Each chose a fourth density planet which is dedicated to the pursuit of the understanding of the law of one through service to self. One in what you would know as the Orion group, one in what you would know as Cassiopeia, one in which you would know as the Southern Cross. However, these loci are not satisfactory. We do not have vocabulary for the geometric calculations necessary for transfer of this understanding to you. Questioner: who went to the Orion group? Ra: I am Ra, the one known as Genghis Khan. Questioner: what does he presently do there? What is his job or occupation? What does he do? Ra: I am Ra. This entity serves the Creator in its own way. Questioner: is it impossible for you to tell us precisely how he does this service? Ra: I am Ra. It is possible for us to speak to this query. However, we use any chance we may have to reiterate the basic understanding learning that all beings serve the Creator. The one you speak of as Genghis Khan, at present, is incarnate in a physical light body which has the work of disseminating material of thought control to those who are what you may call crusaders. He is, as you would term this entity, a shipping clerk. Questioner: what do the crusaders do? Ra: I am Ra. The crusaders move in their chariots to conquer planetary mind, body, spirit, social complexes before they reach the stage of achieving social memory. Questioner: at what stage does a planet achieve social memory? Ra: I am Ra. A mind-body-spirit complex becomes a social memory complex when its entire group of entities are of one orientation or seeking. The group memory lost due to the individuals in the roots of the tree of mind then become known to the social complex, thus creating a social memory complex. The advantages of this complex are the relative lack of distortion in understanding the social beingness and the relative lack of distortion in pursuing the direction of seeking. For all understanding distortions are available to the entities of this society. Questioner: then we have crusaders from Orion coming to this planet for mind control purposes? How do they do this? Ra: as all, they follow the law of one, observing free will. Contact is made with those who call. Those, then, upon the planetary sphere, act much as you do to disseminate the attitudes and philosophy of their particular understanding of the law of one, which is service to self. These become the elite. Though the attempt begins to create a condition whereby the remainder of the planetary entities are enslaved by their own free will. Questioner, can you name any of the recipients of the Crusaders? That is, any names that may be known on our planet today. Ra, I am Ra. I am desirous of being in non-violation of the free will distortion. To name those involved in the future of your space-time is to infringe. Thus, we withhold this information. We request your contemplation of the fruits of the actions of those entities whom you may observe enjoying the distortions towards power. In this way, you may discern for yourself this information. We shall not interfere with the, shall we say, planetary game. It is not central to the harvest. Questioner, how do the Crusaders pass on their concepts to the incarnate individuals on Earth? Ra, I am Ra. There are two main ways, just as there are two main ways of, shall we say, polarizing towards service to others. There are those mind-body-spirit complexes upon your plane who do exercises and perform disciplines in order to seek contact with sources of information and power, leading to the opening of the gate to intelligent infinity. There are others whose vibratory complex is such that this gateway is opened and contact with total service to self with its primal distortions of manipulation of others is then afforded with little or no difficulty, no training, and no control. Questioner, what type of information is passed on from the Crusader to these people? Ra, I am Ra. The Orion group passes on information concerning the Law of One with the orientation of service to self. The information can become technical, just as some of the Confederation, in attempts to aid this planet in service to others, have provided what you would call technical information. The technology provided by this group is in the form of various means of control or manipulation of others to serve the self. Questioner, do you mean then that some scientists receive technical information, shall we say, telepathically, that comes out then as usable gadgetry? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. However, very positively, as you would call this distortion, oriented so-called scientists have received information intended to unlock peaceful means of progress, which redounded unto the last echoes of potential destruction due to the further reception of other scientists of a negative orientation distortion. Questioner, is this how we learned of nuclear energy? Was it mixed both positive and negative orientation? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. The entities responsible for the gathering of the scientists were of a mixed orientation. The scientists were overwhelmingly positive in their orientation. The scientists who followed their work were of mixed orientation, including one extremely negative entity, as you would term it. Questioner, is this extremely negative entity still incarnate on Earth? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner, then I assume you can't name him and would ask you where Nikola Tesla got his information. Ra, I am Ra. The one known as Nikola received information from Confederation sources desirous of aiding this extremely, shall we say, angelically positive entity in bettering the existence of its fellow mind-body-spirit complexes. It is unfortunate, shall we say, that like many wanderers, the vibratory distortions of third density illusion cause this entity to become extremely distorted in its perceptions of its fellow mind-body-spirit complexes, so that its mission was hindered, and in the result, perverted from its purpose. Questioner, how was Tesla's work supposed to benefit man on Earth, and what were its purposes? Ra, I am Ra. The most desired purpose of this mind-body-spirit complex, Nikola, was the freeing of all planetary entities from darkness. Thus, it attempted to give the planet the infinite energy of the planetary sphere for use in lighting and power. Questioner, by freeing the planetary entities from darkness, precisely what do you mean? Ra, I am Ra. Most of the following answer was lost due to tape recorder malfunction. The core of the response was as follows. We spoke of freeing peoples from darkness in a literal sense. Questioner, would this freeing from darkness be commensurate with the Law of One, or does this have any real product? Ra, I am Ra. The product of such a freeing would create two experiences. Firstly, the experience of no need to find the necessary emolument for payment in your money for energy. Secondly, the leisure afforded, thereby exemplifying the possibility and enhancing the probability of the freedom to then search the self for the beginning of seeking the law of one. Few there are working physically from daybreak to darkness, as you would name them, upon your plane who can contemplate the law of one in a conscious fashion. Questioner: what about the Industrial Revolution in general? Was this planned in any way? Ra: I am Ra. This will be the final question of this session. That is correct. Wanderers incarnate in several waves, as you would call them, in order to bring into existence the gradual freeing from the demands of this diurnal cycle and lack of freedom of leisure. Questioner: well, that was the last question, so I will, as usual, ask if there is anything we can do to make the instrument more comfortable. Ra: I am Ra. You are doing well. The most important thing is to carefully align the symbols. The adjustment made to this particular time-space present will aid this instrument's physical complex and the distortions towards comfort. May we ask if you have any short questions which we may resolve before closing this session? Questioner: I don't know if this is a short question or not, so we can save it till next time, but my only question is why the Crusaders from Orion do this. What is their ultimate objective? This is probably too long to answer. Ra: I am Ra. This is not too long to answer. To serve the self is to serve all. The service of self, when seen in this perspective, requires an ever-expanding use of the energies of others for manipulation to the benefit of the self with distortion towards power. If there are further queries to move fully explicate this subject, we shall be with you again. Questioner: just was one thing I forgot. Is it possible to do another session late today? Ra: I am Ra. It is well. Questioner: thank you. Ra: I am Ra. I leave you in the love and the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, then, in rejoicing in the power of the peace of the one Creator, Adonai. For sure. A lot in that one, obviously, right? Huge amounts of stuff. And it's breaking down many things that I think we need to understand better, many things that I think we need to ask questions about. We've been told a lot of stuff, but we need to expand. Maybe there's something larger. Again, he starts with Maldek, which, by the way, if you look up Ceres, Ceres, it's this weird little planetoid thing that seems, my guess, the leftovers of Maldek. There's still lights that shine. There was a thing that went past it, because at first there was lights showing on the light side of it, if you will. There's like literally a big bright spot, supposedly. I haven't seen the actual video, but it came from a reasonably credible source, right? And then they're like, it's just reflecting off the surface. There's ice or something, right? Something crazy. It makes, of course, right? It goes to the backside where it's dark, light shining off it. So something weird about Ceres. So Maldek, weird thing happened. It's the planet that was between Jupiter and Earth. Or I'm sorry, Jupiter and Mars, apologize. And this maybe is the planet they used to be opposite of us. Potentially even could have been Eden, which I wonder sometimes. I do sometimes wonder. There's a lot of very interesting stories that come around that. So the harvest is an interesting thing. From the standpoint of the audience, the people that are actually here right now, those of you that are watching specifically even live right now for sure, but those of you that find this and come upon this information, you're most likely here to help with the harvest. You've already graduated a lower density at least, which is the Earth. What we're trying to do is help it ascend to a higher density with as many people as possible. Most of us are doing this because of the density we come from, and maybe this is going to help us graduate, but this particular session that we're finishing right now is not one for everybody. Like if you're maybe one that's in the 6th density right now or 5th density right now in your life, and you're the way you're living and the place you come from, if you will, if you're coming from there, you right now are not necessarily worried about graduating. Your time frame is a little different. You're here to help with this particular process. Like I've frequently said, we're like holding flashlights at a concert, or we're the people that help them find their seats, or we're the people in the parking lots. Like we're all helping this entire orchestrated event of ascension, graduation, whatever. We're all a part of that. And that's where I think we're getting information from a lot of other places. I mean, again, a lot of people are like, where's this talk about the Bible and all that? Like we do, I think it does cover some of that stuff, but it's not really like, what it is it's like current-ish day. This is even back in the 80s, though. January 28th, 1981. Right? This was way back when. These people went to great lengths. I don't take it as 100%, but I do take it as excellent starting points from the thought process. So harvest is something that most of us are here to help. And understanding that as an individual and kind of understanding what law of one is and the difference between service to self and service to others is very important. We'll get there at the end. Hitler. Now, they were kind of the way they were talking in here that he was dead already by 1981. Now, many people believe that he made it down to, I think it was Argentina after the war. They didn't actually die and burn. They don't get into that yet per se. A lot of people are always wondering what happened to the most evil person on the planet. And a lot of people from a very spiritual upbringing, certainly people that come from a very religious background, have a very hard time with the fact that God could forgive somebody as evil, right? Like the evilest of evil. Could God ever forgive the, quote, fallen angels? And I would say, unquestionably, God made these. You know, even your worst child, you still love them and hope to God they come back someday, right? Like, it's just funny how I think a lot of times we put a very human emotion on things that are maybe not fair in the bigger picture. And I think especially as you ascend through the densities, if you will, you start to realize that there's a need for both sides of the equation. There's a need for darkness and light. There's a need for left and right. There's a need for up and down. There's a need for hot and cold. There's a need for duality. And these things, I think, get lost a lot of times on us while we're in the middle of it all. And then on top of that, and I talk about it all the time, people are very guilty of being binary because sometimes things aren't just one thing or the other, but in fact, sort of a blending. And I really do think that's part of the ascension process, is as you start to go into higher densities or even higher dimensions for that matter, there really isn't a good or bad, left or right, up or down. It's all those things. It really is. And what part of that are you going to experience? What aspect of the total do you wish to experience? Well, you experiencing a left right now? Okay, we'll experience a left. And it literally is like that. And this, again, is all about getting us to think outside of what we've grown up with. That's not, okay, throw that aside a little, please. Because we have to expand the bigger thought, the bigger picture. They talk about the density octave. Okay, so densities up to 1 through 7. These guys are given that information because that's kind of where they're at. And you really can't describe something above you. You can't because you don't know it. You can't describe something you've never experienced because you don't know it. So you can only describe what you know. These guys don't know above the 8th octave. And a lot of people, through some of the information that's floating around out there, and there is 8 octaves, just like music and everything else, like it's all baked into this reality. And there's signs of it all over the place. There's this beautiful harmony and beautiful set of rules and kind of like the Matrix, but that simplifies it a little, but kind of similar. Yeah, it's just way more cool than that. But you actually interact with it. And that's what we're here to do. I don't know what happens once we graduate the picture right now, at least in this moment like that. And it would probably just confuse the bigger picture in my particular mind, but whatever. Energy centers was brought up. I just want to remind everybody, chakras. And I recommend the 7 chakra system. 1, because it's what I'm familiar with. 2, it's a bit simpler and an easier way to kind of come at the whole chakra thing. But I recommend each of you look up and dig on some of the info related to the chakras. You really do want to be aware of them, and if you can, consciously activate each of them, and you can do that. And there's a number of books out there. I'm going to let you find your own book, okay? God's going to guide you, or Source is going to guide you, but I would really recommend it. It's a big help. It's going to get you, you'll be amazed kind of what you notice once you get all your chakras kind of activated and turned on, especially if you have any sort of weird health issues, just making sure you don't have blockages in places. And when you go to try to activate them, you'll start to see blockages pop up. You'll start to pay attention to them. You'll start to notice them, and then you can heal them. It's a big part of the process. And again, simplifying it here because we're trying to do a somewhat shortened show, right? Like it's not, like my normal show, it's like 14 hours long. This one's, reasonable. Fourth dimension. So yeah, Orion, Cassiopeia, Southern Cross, some of the places where some of these negative entities were coming from. Now, again, they talk about it. They're going to explain it more. But the difference between an actual physical craft, like physical 3D, right in front of you, literally could touch it, even though maybe it'd nuke you, whatever, right? Like, versus a thought form, which a thought form is something where someone from somewhere else, higher dimension, literally is imagining, if you will, a UFO in our space-time. And so because of that projection, and we can do this actually with people we know and love here. It's a different show, and you should check out my manifesting stuff. It kind of gets into this, and I'll tie back into that in a sec. But when we project out our consciousness, you can create physical structures. You can create images of yourself. There's people that have remote viewed places and actually been noticed because there's a presence of you there. Even goes so far as looking at someone. If you stare at someone, the power of your eyesight on them is felt. Now, one thing I like to do is I like to stare at people and see how long it takes them to stare back at me, because the most sensitive people, it's very quick. Boom. They'll look immediately. But the people that are a little less awake, seconds, maybe never. It's kind of funny. It's something you can kind of play with, all right? Let's see. Service to self is a big deal, right? So Crusaders are Loosh, psychic attack, a lot of these kinds of things in the fourth dimension. This is where this stuff's kind of happening. That's what he was kind of talking about. That's what the Crusaders are, service to self beings too, that are solely focused on trying to serve themselves. So they're trying to suck energy off us. They do it a lot through emotion, like fear, anger, stuff like that, because that gets them that jive. That gets them that feeling. They're like mining it from us, if you will. So some people on this planet right now are service to self. I just imagine a politician. All right, that's probably a service to self individual. Or people that are extraordinarily egoist or extraordinarily it's all about them. There's certain actors and movie stars that are very much like that you hear stories about, at least. I don't hang out with these people, so I don't know. So most of us are not service to self. We're service to others. Most of us, and that's what we gravitate towards. And frankly, it's much easier to graduate from that standpoint. Law of confusion. Again, I've talked about this many times. I'm going to talk about it many more times throughout all of this. But what it comes down to is no matter what, you're an individual. You personally are an individual. And if somebody's saying some crazy stuff and you're like, I don't buy it, that gets too far outside my comfort zone, it's not true, la, 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 you always have that right. And that's totally okay, okay? Always okay. We all have to take this at the speed at which we can take it. We all got to, take this giant horse pill, or some call it a suppository, but I don't like looking at it as such. But this is about really kind of expanding on that understanding of that, right? And so love's a great way. Love's the primal way to understand service to others, by the way. It is the most powerful, beautiful experience that we all get here. And it is how we learn that. So, again, rituals they were talking about, so gateways or to other stuff. Rituals are used good and bad. That's all I can say. They're used good and bad. Hate it, don't like it, whatever. It's like numbers. A lot of people like 17, like there's a big number right now, right? Like 17's been used for dark forces and 17's been used for good forces. And again, so everything has kind of got its power, if you will, in its own right. And it's not that it itself is powerful. It's just there are certain things that are here as markers, here as things we pick up along the way. I don't know. They're just energy grids. They're already there. There's tools. I don't know. You just find them, you pick them up, right? A lot of it seems. So we've got that going on. They happen, both sides. Typically, we hear about the negative side of it, of course, which is, again, I've never been in a ritual, by the way. I've never been a part of a ritual other than like Super Bowl and shit like that, right? But I've never, just so you guys know, I'm saying that, but I'm aware of them. I know people that, and I'm well versed in some of those rituals, let's say. I just, partaking's a different story altogether. Info receipt from the wrong people happens. So they're talking about channeling information, if you will. And if you're a service to self individual channeling and you get a service to self connection, those people will dump all sorts of crazy cool stuff to try to make you more powerful, because that's what it's all about. And it's some of why a lot of us are like, well, it's not really cool that we have to intermix with service to self when we're service to others, because they're kind of trying to take advantage of us, and they're starting to actually cause places where we might lose our life or lose our freedom. And that's not okay. In fact, this was the part where I wanted to bring up manifesting. There's two sides to manifesting. It's one of the funny things about my manifesting channel. It's the Stan Radio Style. If you go to YouTube, I've been there like, I don't know, 10, 12 years, whatever the hell. A lot of videos, over 1,000 videos. Okay, it's all about manifesting. And there's two sides to this. There's this side that says no matter what, they will do what you say. Because they have to. They're you pushed out. They're you, right? We're all one. But they're you, so thusly they'll do what you need them to do, which will be to serve you. And then there's the other side that says everybody's got their own free will. And they're two very, very, very distinct ways of looking at the same individual that's out there. They're either you pushed out, you and I are the same, right? They're either you, and so whatever you do to them and make them do, it's okay. Or you're co-creating with others, and they have their own free will and choice, and you must acknowledge and respect that. That is the best example I can give for service to self, service to others. It was one of the reasons where I realized I was getting beat up. I'm like, why am I not more? I'm like the best damn teacher that's out there when it comes to manifesting. I'm extraordinarily good at it. I get it. I understand it. I'm really good at explaining it. And I found that all the other people that were saying what everybody wanted them, no matter what, you should be able to manifest anything. Well, sometimes you got to look at the bigger picture. There's other angles. There's other aspects. It's challenging. So information coming from the wrong people, they're going to get all sorts of crazy stuff. If they get someone that's service to others oriented, and it's a dark, like one of the service to self energies, it's just going to tell you a bunch of doom and gloom. And that's almost how you know when you've connected to the wrong source. You're going to be freaking out about stuff. It's like, yeah, you're not talking to what you think you're talking to. But when you're talking to the good side, it's always like love. It's always love. It's always positive. Everything it's just weird. It is. And then a lot of times, if you can feel, it's amazing how it feels. So very, very different experience. So extremely negative entities. Oh, he was talking about there's one that's still alive. Just real quick, there's always someone that is the holder of the light and always someone that's the holder of the dark. There's always one individual. They may not necessarily know they're the individual, but there's always one that is kind of the tippy top, the numero uno player. So just understand that there always is. It's a binary world, and these are, I think, part of that. And as that starts to disintegrate, it's ultimately just going to become us all kind of moving off into our proper directions rather than continuing this weird binary existence that's very three-dimensional when we're heading to a fourth dimensional, which is a little different than just that binary concept. And I don't think I could explain it because it's a higher dimension. It's just crazy. Nikola Tesla talked about as well, taking on, and we're just learning about him, talking about him. He's become super famous, and that's awesome. And then finally, if we did not work, what would we do? It was just kind of a question they brought up about freedom, to not have to do service, period, like the hard service, hard work, hard labor. And I just asked to a lot of you guys, if you didn't have to do anything to make money, like if everything was just given to you, whatever you can imagine, nicest house, nicest, whatever you want, right? And now you got that and you don't have to pay for it, then what would you do? And that's a question I'd like all of you to think about. It's your homework, kind of. What would you do? If you didn't have to pay the bills and just do, I'm a welder or I'm a, deep sea fisherman, whatever. Like, if you didn't have to do that, what would you do? Would you just sit around and play video games? Would you sit in your underwear all day and right? Because we all got to do something, frankly. You're going to want to. And then finally, service to self and manifesting. I tied in then all that already. So going to go on the 12th one. I went a little long on the yappity. I'll see how bad it's going to go from here on out. We'll try to take some questions afterwards. But again, Law of One, session 11 was good. We're going to go into session 12 right here. And I think you guys are going to enjoy this. This kind of covers some big stuff. And I've been talking about that Mario Biglino guy. And He talks about chariots, and there's actually a number of different words in Hebrew that are used. I forget the exact numbers, 28 or something like that, some number, right? There's a bunch of different words for chariots, flying objects, different moving objects. And it's very interesting. And again, here we are using similar terminology, which, again, I felt like was just kind of an interesting connection that I hadn't made until recently, and it just sort of, in my mind, makes it sort of more beautiful. All said, here's Law of One, Session 12, recorded, I think, the same day as Session 11, but just later in the day. It's on the Fringe. The Law of One, Session 12, recorded January 28th, 1981. Ra, I am Ra. I greet you in the love and the light of the infinite Creator. I communicate now. Questioner, I got a call from Henry Puharich this afternoon. He will be here next month. I want to ask you if it is possible for him to join in our circle and ask questions. And also, if Michael de Abrevanik, who is also known as George Hunt Williamson, happens to come here, would it be all right for him to be in the circle? Ra, I am Ra. These entities, at present, are not properly attuned for the particular work due to vibrational distortions, which in turn are due to a recent lack of time-space, which they call busyness. It would be requested that the entities spend a brief time-space in each diurnal cycle of your planet in contemplation. At a future time-space in your continuum, you are requested to ask again. This group is highly balanced to this instrument's vibratory distortions due to, firstly, contact with the instrument on a day-to-day basis. Secondly, due to contact with the instrument through meditation periods. Thirdly, through a personal mind-body-spirit complex distortion towards contemplation, which in sum causes this group to be effective. Questioner, thank you. Continuing with the previous session, you mentioned that the Orion Crusaders came here in chariots. Could you describe a chariot? Ra, I am Ra. The term chariot is a term used in warfare among your peoples. That is its significance. The shape of the Orion craft is one of your following. Firstly, the elongated, ovoid shape, which is of darker nature than silver, but which has a metallic appearance if seen in the light. In the absence of light, it appears to be red or fiery in some manner. Other craft include disc-shaped craft of a small nature, approximately 12 feet in your measurement and diameter, the box-like shape, approximately 40 feet to a side in your measurements. Other craft can take on the desired shape through the use of thought control mechanisms. There are various civilization complexes which work within this group. Some are more able to use intelligent infinity than others. The information is very seldom shared, therefore, the chariots vary greatly in shape and appearance. Questioner, is there any effort by the Confederation to stop the Orion chariots from arriving here? Ra, I am Ra. Every effort is made to quarantine this planet. However, the network of guardians, much like any other pattern of patrols on whatever level, does not hinder each and every entity from penetrating quarantine, for if requests is made in light love, the Law of One will be met with acquiescence. If the request is not made, due to the slipping through the net, then there is penetration of this net. Questioner, who makes this request? Ra, I am Ra. Your query is unclear. Please restate. Questioner, I did not quite understand. How does the Confederation stop the Orion chariot from coming through the quarantine? What actions do... Ra, I am Ra. There is contact at the level of light form or light body being depending upon the vibratory level of the guardian. These guardians sweep reaches of your Earth's energy fields, attempting to be aware of any entities approaching. An entity which is approaching is hailed in the name of the one Creator. Any entity thus hailed is bathed in love light and will of free will obey the quarantine due to the power of the Law of One. Questioner, what would happen to the entity if he did not obey the quarantine after being hailed? Ra, I am Ra. Not to obey quarantine after being hailed on the level of which we speak would be equivalent to you not stopping upon walking into a solid brick wall. Questioner, what would happen to the entity then if he did this? What happened to his chariot? Ra, I am Ra. The Creator is one being. The vibratory level of those able to reach the quarantine boundaries is such that upon seeing the love light net, it is impossible to break this law. Therefore, Nothing happens. No attempt is made. There is no confrontation. The only beings who are able to penetrate the quarantine are those who discover windows or distortions in the space-time continuum surrounding your planet's energy fields. Through these windows they come. These windows are rare and unpredictable. Questioner: does this account for what we call the UFO flaps, where a large number of UFOs show up like in 1973? Ra: I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner: well, then are most of the UFOs which are seen in our skies from the Orion group? Ra: I am Ra. Many of those seen in your skies are of the Orion group. They send out messages. Some are received by those who are oriented towards service to others. These messages then are altered to be acceptable to those entities while warning of difficulties ahead. This is the most that self-serving entities can do when faced with those who wish to serve others. The contact which the group finds most helpful to their cause are those contacts made with entities whose orientation is service to self. There are many thought-form entities in your skies which are of a positive nature and are the projections of the Confederation. Other sightings are due to the inadvertent visualization by your people's optical mechanisms of your own government's weaponry. Questioner: which group was it that contacted Henry Puharich in Israel right around 1972? Ra: I am Ra. We must refrain from answering this question due to the probability that the one you call Henry will read this answer. This would cause distortions in his future. It is necessary that each being use free and complete discernment from within the all-self, which is at the heart of the mind-body-spirit complex. Questioner: does that also apply to the answer, who was contacting the group that I was originally in 1962? Ra: I am Ra. This query may be answered. The group contacted was the Confederation. Questioner: did they have any of their craft in our area at that time? Ra: I am Ra. There was no craft. There was a thought form. Questioner: you mentioned the Orion Crusaders. When they do get through the net, give both technical and non-technical information. We know what you mean by technical information, but what type of non-technical information do they give to those they contact? Am I right in assuming that this is all done by telepathic communications? Ra: I am Ra. This is correct. Through telepathy and philosophy of the Law of One, with the distortion of service to self is promulgated. In advanced groups, there are rituals and exercises given, and these have been written down just as the service to others-oriented entities have written down the promulgated philosophy of their teachers. The philosophy concerns the service of manipulating others, that they may experience service towards the other self, thus, through this experience, becoming able to appreciate service to self. These entities thus would become oriented towards service to self, and in turn manipulate yet others, so that they in turn might experience the service towards the other self. Questioner: would this be the origin of what we call black magic? Ra: I am Ra. This is correct in one sense, incorrect in another. The Orion group has aided the so-called negatively oriented among your mind-body-spirit complexes. These same entities would be concerning themselves with service to self in any case, and there are many upon your so-called inner planes which are negatively oriented, and thus available as inner teachers or guides and so-called possessors of certain souls who seek this distortion of service to self. Questioner: is it possible for an entity here on Earth to be so confused as to call both the Confederation and the Orion group in an alternating way, one, then the other, inaudible back to inaudible? Ra: I am Ra. It is entirely possible for the untuned channel, as you call that service, to receive both positive and negative communications. If the entity at the base of its confusion is oriented towards service to others, the entity will begin to receive messages of doom. If the entity at the base of the complex of beingness is oriented towards service to self, then the crusader, who in this case do not find it necessary to lie, will simply begin to give the philosophy they are here to give. Many of your so-called contacts among your people have been confused and self-destructive because the channels were oriented towards service to others, but in the desire for proof, were open to the lying information of the Crusaders, who then were able to neutralize the effectiveness of that channel. Questioner: are most of these Crusaders fourth density? Ra: I am Ra. There is a majority of fourth density. That is correct. Questioner: does an individual in the fourth density normally appear, or are they normally invisible to us? Ra: I am Ra. The use of the word normal is one which befuddles the meaning of the question. Let us rephrase for clarity. The fourth density is, by choice, not visible to the third density. It is possible for fourth density to be visible. However, it is not the choice of the fourth density entity to be visible due to the necessity for concentration upon a rather difficult vibrational complex, which is the third density you experience. Questioner: are there any Confederation or Orion individuals living on Earth visible to us and important in our society at this time, walking among us? Ra: I am Ra. There are no entities of either group walking among you at this time. However, the Crusaders of Orion use two types of entities to do their bidding, shall we say. The first type is a thought form. The second is a kind of robot. Questioner: could you describe the robot? Ra: I am Ra. The robot may look like any other being. It is a construct. Questioner: is the robot what is normally called Men in Black? Ra: I am Ra. This is incorrect. Questioner: who are the Men in Black? Ra: I am Ra. The Men in Black are a thought form type of entity which have some beingness to their makeup. They have certain physical characteristics given to them. However, their true vibrational nature is without third density vibrational characteristic, and, therefore, they are able to materialize and dematerialize when necessary. Questioner: are all of these Men in Black then used by the Orion Crusaders? Ra: I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner: if one were to visit me and I grabbed him and locked him in a closet, could I keep him, or would he disappear? Ra: I am Ra. It depends upon which type of entity you grab. You are perhaps able to perceive a construct. The construct might be kept for a brief period, although these constructs also have an ability to disappear. The programming of these constructs, however, makes it more difficult to remotely control them. You would not be able to grapple with a thought form entity of a Man in Black, as you call it, type. Questioner: would this be against the law of one, and I would be making a mistake by grabbing these entities? Ra: I am Ra. There are no mistakes under the law of one. Questioner: what I am saying is, would I be polarizing more towards service to self or towards service to others when I did this act of locking up a thought form or construct? Ra: I am Ra. You may consider that question for yourself. We interpret the law of one, but not to the extent of advice. Questioner: thank you. Well, you spoke of wanderers. Who are wanderers? Where do they come from? Ra: I am Ra. Imagine, if you will, the sands of your shores. As countless as the grains of sand are, the sources of intelligent infinity. When a social memory complex has achieved its complete understanding of its desire, it may conclude that its desire is service to others, with the distortion towards reaching their hand, figuratively, to any entity who calls for aid. These entities, who you may call the brothers and sisters of sorrow, move towards this calling of sorrow. These entities are from all reaches of the infinite creation and are bound together by the desire to serve in this distortion. Questioner: how many of them are incarnate on earth now? Ra: I am Ra. The number is approximate due to a heavy influx of those birthed at this time due to an intensive need to lighten the planetary vibration and thus aid in harvest. The number approaches 65 million. Questioner: are most of these from the fourth density? What density do they come from? Ra: I am Ra. Few there are of fourth density. The largest number of wanderers, as you call them, are of the sixth density. The desire to serve must be distorted towards a great deal of purity of mind and what you may call foolhardiness or bravery, depending upon your distortion complex judgment. The challenge danger of the wanderer is that it will forget its mission, become karmically involved, and thus be swept into the maelstrom from which it had incarnated to aid the destruction. Questioner: what could one of these entities do to become karmically involved? Could you give me an example? Ra: I am Ra. An entity which acts in a consciously unloving manner in action with other beings can become karmically involved. Questioner, I just had a thought. Do any of these wanderers have physical ailments in this earth situation? I am Ra. Due to the extreme variance between the vibratory distortions of third density and those of the more dense densities, if you will, wanderers have, as a general rule, some form of handicap, difficulty, or feeling of alienation which is severe. The most common of these difficulties are alienation, the reaction against the planetary vibration by personality disorders, as you would call them, and body complex ailments, indicating difficulty in adjustment to the planetary vibrations, such as allergies, as you would call them. Questioner, is there a best way for these entities to heal themselves of their physical ailments? Ra, I am Ra. This will be the last complete question of this time-space. The self-healing distortion is effected through realization of the intelligent infinity resting within. This is blocked in some way in those who are not perfectly balanced in bodily complexes. The blockage varies from entity to entity. It requires the conscious awareness of the spiritual nature of reality, if you will, and the corresponding pourings of this reality into the individual mind-body-spirit complex for healing to take place. We will use this instrument as an example. The portions of its ailment, as you call this distortion complex, that can be perfected in balance are due primarily to a blockage of the indigo ray or pineal energy center. This center receives the intelligent energy from all source lawful within the one creation, that is, lawful in the third density distortion or illusion. If there is no blockage, these energies pour or stream down into the mind-body-spirit complex, perfecting moment by moment the individual's body complex. This instrument also experiences some distortion of the green ray energy centers, which you may call the heart center. It is overly open due to an intensive desire distortion on the part of this mind-body-spirit complex towards service to others, or as you would call it, universal love. This entity therefore spends itself without regard to its reserves of mind-body-spirit complex distortions in regard to what you call strength or energy. This distortion is primarily due to the blockage of the indigo ray. As we have said before, the misapprehension distortion of the instrument responsible for this blockage is the basic orientation towards a belief in unworthiness. The unworthiness distortion blocks the free flow of intelligent energy. The seventh or violet ray is unimpaired, this being not only an energy receptor, but a sum total of the vibratory level of the individual. The other energy centers are also quite clear. The solution to healing in this case is action that puts into practice the peaceful understanding and humility distortion that the entity is one with the Creator, therefore perfected and not separate. In each case of what you would call ill health, one or more of these energy centers is blocked. The intelligence of the mind-body-spirit complex needs then to be alerted either by the self as healer or by the catalyst of another healer, as we have said before. Is there a short question before we close this session? Questioner, is it possible for you to tell us if any of the three of us are and have been wanderers? Ra, I am Ra. In scanning each of the mind-body-spirit complexes present, we find an already complete assurance of this occurrence and, therefore, find no harm in recapitulating this occurrence. Each of those present are wanderers pursuing a mission, if you will. Questioner, thank you. Is there anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable? Ra, I am Ra. We ask you to realign the object upon which the symbol sits. It is not significant distortion for one session only, but you will find upon measuring the entire assemblage that the resting place is 1.4 degrees from the correct alignment, the resting place an additional 1/2 degree away from proper orientation. Do not concern yourselves overly with this in this space-time present, but do not allow these distortions to remain over a long period, or the contact will be gradually impaired. I am Ra. I leave you in the love and light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one Creator. Adonai. Yeah, I love this stuff. All right, and we did get a question. I'm going to talk about By the way, I think September answered it very well. But Toby Taffy, you had a question. I'm gonna get to that here in a second. Don't have too many things to cover. We'll get there. Guardians searching. They cannot resist. So here's the thing with the quarantine that they put on. It made it very difficult for them to actually directly influence. So they had to start doing it by thought form. They started doing it a number of other ways. They tried to send in probes and stuff like that. So again, this is since 81 and where we've come now. A lot has happened. But there's been a lot of this kind of efforts going on, if you will. And so the Guardians, that's kind of the bad guys. It's funny that that's their name. But they've been trying to basically infiltrate or give technology, give support to the service to self side of things. Now, one thing to cover really quick is there's a difference between service to self and evil. I want everybody to understand that. That's a huge, huge, huge difference. Service to self can actually, again, if you're serving self, you're serving the other. If you're serving the other, serving self. It's all the same. It really, truly is. A difference between I literally do something horrible to someone and that's a whole different story. So just because somebody serves to self, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just, not the path that I'm, teaching, basically. I think it's easier, one, to graduate service to others, unquestionably. We'll get to it, but all that said. So channels are people that channel information. Wherever you are with that, okay? I'm not going to even try to, prove it or not prove it. Like, if you don't believe it, don't believe it. Law of confusion. I always like to say, I don't care. I don't care if you believe it. I don't care if you do want to believe it or whatever. Look into it. I know a lot of people that do it. I know a lot of people that do it accidentally. I know a lot of people that do it and claim it's something else. Whatever. I don't even care, a sheep in a wolf's clothing or whatever. Like, I get it. Channeling is an interesting thing. First off, the way I liken it all the time is you're just turning on a microphone. You're literally just like setting up a microphone and you're like, all right, whoever wants to talk to this, talk to it. And that's all it is, just talking. It's not like they can jump through the microphone and eat your face or anything like that. No. But it's all right, what do you want to say? And you open up the microphone. And if you're not good at understanding how things work, and the 40 days in the desert and being tempted is a great place for some people to start and think. Like, tempted was all it was. So the words that come through this microphone can sometimes lead us in directions that make us think like, yeah, I am making a difference. Yeah, I am really important. Yeah, if it wasn't for me, things wouldn't be like they are right now. And that egoism starts to send you into a service to self kind of thinking process. And so it can be used against you. And it's very easy to turn people. Greed is one of the simplest ways in many ways, or sometimes just pleasures that maybe don't normally exist in your life. Just, a one-time option to, I want to go on a roller coaster. You were thinking something different. There's a lot of things in a lot of ways we can go through that. So yes, ego, we got that. We got positive, negative. Cannot be told something outside of what's okay for your soul. Good example. Why don't they just land a bunch of spaceships right on the White House lawn? Because there's a whole bunch of people that are literally their heads would explode if it was demonstrated that that's possible. Right now in their minds they're like, no, there was a monkey and then we somehow popped out, right, and started making noises and then we were walking normal, right? And so again, I don't think that's the case. I think there's been some assistance. We don't need to get into that discussion right now. They do talk about fourth densities. And I think they meant dimension, but fourth dimension, that's where, or I think I meant dimension, whatever. That's where ghosts and stuff, spirits, the evil stuff, I don't know, Ouija board does things like that. That's the place where you're tapping in. Fifth, things change a lot. Fifth dimension, things change a lot. Fourth, it's kind of like that weird Wonderland, In fact, my understanding is the Earth's supposed to go to fifth. But passing through the fourth is something we kind of are going to take with us. It's either going to get cleared out or it's coming up. And so a lot of things are going to happen, but whatever. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But yeah, the fourth dimension, that's like your ghosts and stuff. So again, they talked about how it's a lot of effort to come down to this density and show themselves. But ghosts are about as close as that sometimes can happen. Thought forms are similar to ghosts, by the way, or who knows what they look like in the sky. Just something to always keep in mind. Men in Black, they talk about, which I thought was super cool. It kind of reminded me of, And this is 1981, before the Matrix ever came out. But like Mr. Adam Smith, or the Smith, Agent Smith, right? Like he could pop into anybody and just pop out of them. That's kind of how the Men in Black, I think, sort of are. They're not necessarily real, but they're definitely not fake. And there's a component to them that is forever existing. And I mean, again, it's not a perfect analogy, but probably reasonably close is all I'm saying. That's all. Okay, I think I got like two more things here, guys. Almost three things. I mean, well, one, two. What the hell? Wanderer. Sometimes you do what feels right. Leap of faith. So there's a thing where I put this in there. I'm sorry that like you guys are like, huh? And it's just like it's supposed to remind me of this larger, like extrapolate, expand. One of the big moments, and I talked about chakras earlier, it's where the blockages are, and it's going to come up in the healing stuff, but that's one of the places where you're going to get a huge understanding. As you work through the first, the second, the third, and the third is like kind of like your gut level. That is your gut. And the fourth is your heart. And the step between the gut and the heart is a funny one. The gut's very physical. The bottom three are very physical. The top four are spiritual. They're higher dimensional, they're whatever. They're I'm drawing a blank. The acorn gland up there, right? It's that gland. It's happening through that pineal. There you go. So we are learning how to move through that great leap. It's what it's called. It's a leap of faith. It's where you do something because it feels right, not because it looks right. All the information would suggest that's a horrible idea, but there's this calling inside of you that's like, you have to do this or else I'm going to annoy you every single day of your life. And you're like, well, is this an evil spirit? And it's like, no, I'm just trying to help you. I love you. Like, I'll never try to do you wrong. And you're like, but, yeah, and it'll just bug you. And eventually you're like, I'll do it. What the hell? And after you make that step, you forever realize the big connection. You understand the point of feeling. You understand that connection to physicality. And it's very similar. You guys remember the third Raiders of the Lost Ark movie? The one where Sean Connery was his father, right? When he was there? Like, remember the one where he had to sprinkle the sand across the thing because, like, a leap of faith? He's like, huh. And it was just the painting was perfect of the stone. He took that leap of faith. That is that jump between those two chakras. And that jump, I think, is one of the keys to ascending. To be able to do that. A lot of people are afraid to. A lot of people can't let go. A lot of people can't do the thing that they know that feels right, but it's easier to stay here. And that is going to be in each and everybody's choices. And then finally, healings. Really, like I said, chakras. Get into chakras. Learn about chakras. Blockages and chakras will show up in very specific places in your life. If you do any sort of digging into it, you will immediately start to figure that out. And I just highly recommend working through them. Honestly, from the root chakra up, I don't care what your age is, work through them. And you'll find the blockages. Clear them as you go. Don't skip anything because they're all important. You need all of them chakras working beautifully. All those colors shining bright. And you'll be amazed at the brightness of the light that you produce will be. See, I'm adding stuff past just what the law of one is. It's more than that. All right, so we had a question, and one of the questions anyways, there might be more going on. But Tabby wanted to know, is Ra an alien? An alien's a funny word, and this is, kind of one of the things where Ra talks about the communication that came through. Like, alien can imply a lot of things. What did you mean, from another planet? That's not really the right way to look at it. Ra is an energy complex, a group, a social complex. Some people have talked about how we have a social memory complex that we can tap into, right? That's like the zeitgeist or just the general consciousness of everybody. Ra is another consciousness. And the individual that's speaking, or however this message is coming through, is basically like kind of sponsored by Ra, if you will. I'm like, I am Ra. Yeah, Ra, I'm speaking for Ra. I am the Ra. I am Ra-Ra-ing for Ra. I am the voice of Ra, right? Like it's his own radio station. It is a way of denoting who's who as well. Ra is a consciousness. just like, and this might be hard for some people, but I've experienced this with even like parents, grandparents. My favorite was my grandpa. It was one of the changing moments in my life. I'll share this small story really quick. But my grandpa he died, and it was just, I love him. He's a wonderful man. He taught me a lot of stuff, and I just forever love this man. And I will never forget, I was at a pool. I was on like a lounge chair type thing, and I looked up and I saw what looked like two eyes. But it was like, I didn't really see anything else. I just saw what looked like two eyes. That's what first caught my attention. I was like, it looked like, kind of like my grandpa's eyes a little bit. And then I sort of kind of saw almost like electricity made like an outline of what might have been a body, right? Like an ethereal kind of thing, if you can think of it. It was kind of like electricity. Like you could totally see through it, but I could almost see the edges and the eyes and the edges and where they were. And I was like, Grandpa? And I saw it move towards and then to the side of my bench, got down lower. I saw what looked like an arm come across me. And the second it touched me, tears, just like the level of love that went through me, like it was my grandpa. And he was connecting either through a thought form, most likely, but in a very physical manner. So it's kind of similar, at least in my understanding, of what Ra is. He is another consciousness. He can't control me. I'm not letting him inside my body or anything weird like that. A lot of people tend to kind of get weird about it. Even if you're talking to an evil thing, we have politicians. They get on the news all the time and say evil stuff. So we should be versed in that already. So yeah, evil will talk to you. That's the temptation. And they'll say things, and they'll usually use our egos to get us to that place where we're willing to do something that's probably not a good idea. And that is part of this path, is learning to trust the right, good voice, if you will, that's inside of us. All right, I don't know if anyone, let's see, Toby, and we got... let's see. Isn't Ra a demonic entity of RJ Pie? I don't believe he's demonic or they're demonic, RJ Pie. But I mean, if that's how it feels to you, then that I would say take it from that. I don't know one thing that's been said that's even remotely close to demonic. So I would say if you can cite that, otherwise I would probably consider that question a little strange. Frankly, I'd be like, we should maybe watch some more of this stuff or something, because I don't know what's been said, right, that comes close to demonic at all. It's just information. And it's one of the things I think that scares people sometimes. Like, what if I learned something what if I opened my mind to something that they said was bad? Well, of course they said it was bad. Just opening your mind and learning. When you start doing ritualistic things and when people start asking you to do stuff like that, you're in a different land altogether. When someone's offering you information, that's just information. Information can't hurt you. Even if it's something you don't like, it can't hurt you. All right. Does anyone know what the blue energy is? Blue energy, when they were referring to blue, indigo, that's when you're talking about the chakras, RJ Pie. Chakras are colored. They start red, and basically the colors of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Like, how do I know that, Dan? Because Roy G. Biv, if that helps at all. But the colors are the chakras and the parts of our bodies, and those handle emotional areas of our life and all of that. So again, chakras are something that I highly recommend if any of you guys are serious about trying to understand a lot of this better. That would be my recommendation. Whatever and however you find that would be the appropriate path indeed. All right, so let's see. Pull this out real quick. See if anybody says anything wonderful. Tattoo Tammy, love to see that you're here. Tubby, Taffy, Dan, you believe you're talking about? Dan, do you believe what you're talking about, or just teaching what you have learned? Okay, Toby, you're definitely heading out in a fun area with me. Do I believe what I'm talking about? Yes, absolutely. I think what this information is extremely helpful. I find you seem to be going in a very a direction that seems to be actually kind of taking the conversation into a poor choice. And I would usually find people that do that tend to have more of negative vibes attached with them that try to steer a conversation that's meant to be beautiful and lively, especially the way I'm trying to bring it about, and then try to steer it into directions that are more negative. So that's typically what negative energies do, Toby or Tobby or however you like to go by. But that would be my answer to you at this point. I appreciate you guys. Look, this is something that's important to me. It's not only something I believe, it's something that's important to me. I don't care how you feel about it, frankly, but this is what my time is to learn, teach, and teach, learn for you guys. And if you want to be a part of it, be a part of it. If you don't. It does not matter to me. I'm here to help as best I can. What you do with the information is up to you. I love you guys. We are moving through this, and we're going to have a lot more to go. And I think people are going to slowly figure it out. I think some people are going to have a hard time with it, and some people just aren't ready for this. And that's cool. It doesn't matter anymore. We're going to do what we're going to do, and we're going to get through it as best we can. And I'm going to try to teach you guys. Again, loving it. Lob one. Going to continue. And again, good stuff, I think, in my opinion. And we will continue doing it. Where we go one, we go all. Still matters. But certainly, it's on the Fringe with Dan Radio Style.
Meditation is supposed to be fun. It's not something you do as a grim duty. The trouble with religion as we know it is that it is so mixed up with grim duties. We do it because it's good for you. It's a kind of self-punishment. Well, meditation, when correctly done, has nothing to do with all that. It's a kind of digging the present. It's a kind of grooving with the eternal now. And brings us into a state of peace where we can understand that the point of life, the place where it's at, is simply here and now.
This moment is the creation of the universe. It's starting now. If you look back and wonder whether there was a big bang a long time ago, all you'll see is vanishing traces. The big bang is happening now. This is when the world begins. You're doing it. Only you're not doing it by straining. A you deeper than the straining you is doing all this. The same you that is growing your hair and coloring your eyes and making your thumbprints and all that. You don't think about it. You don't strain muscles to do it. But that is what is creating the world. Here it comes. Now. So instead of thinking that the past is the reality which explains everything that happens now, let's look at now.